All right, thank you and everyone for joining the Internet of Value Foundation New York, episode 92. And for all of those who come and listen to the information in the future, I hope you find this as valuable as I know I do every single day. The diverse amount of mindsets and perspectives and information that's spoken about in this space, I truly appreciate all of the individuals who come. And so many of you guys joined so quickly today. So thank you guys, Tammy, Dazzling, Zara, Chris, Bridge. It's good to see all of you. Fio. I enjoyed that you guys joined in both of your accounts. Feel free to come up. I was going to let the space be somewhat of an open forum for the first 15 to 20 minutes or so. Of course, I want to mention congratulations to the team behind XRPL Labs and everyone who worked on Zahao, the mainnet being live today. Should really say I saw it yesterday, but today all the announcements. It's awesome to see that it's finally live and all of the great things that are going to be able to be built and utilized on it now. But uh, if anybody wants to come up though and has anything they'd like to speak about, not specifically on the topic of Zahao or the XRP ledger, but science related, quantum mechanics or any sort of science stuff beforehand, because towards the end of the space I plan to strictly be talking about XRP ledger and Zahao. Welcome up, Chris, and Dazzling. You got your hand up, man. Go ahead.
Morning, guys, or afternoon for you guys. I guess if you want to touch on, if I can, just ask a question. Just a nice, easy one. What headsets does everybody use? Because I'm finding that the AirPod Pros that I've got, I mean, they're fantastic. The functionality is great, but when I listen back, I sound like I'm really far away. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of wondering what everyone else is using.
I've heard the same exact thing for a lot of individuals who seem to use the Apple headset for some reason. However, I don't use a headset at all. I'm speaking directly to the phone, and if I'm not using my phone directly, it's usually through Bluetooth, like in a vehicle. So I'm not the one to ask for that. I'm sorry, Dazzling.
Yeah, I don't use one either. I just talk directly into the phone.
It's actually, it feels great to actually have a question that I don't have an answer for you for once. So
I'm on earbuds, or AirPods, whatever, and Bluetooth as well for the car.
what about yourself, Shellfish? Is there anything that you've looked at today that you'd like to speak about before we start speaking about Zaha, mainnet going live, and XRP Ledger, and some really cool functionality and things that I think are going to come from Evernode being able to be existing?
No, I was actually learning some cybersecurity stuff, and I found out today that I'm a dork. Like, I didn't realize that that was actually a cyber hacking term, but apparently I've been the ability to prompt, like I do, is actually called dorking. So, yay! I learned a new terminology for my innate ability to navigate Google. So I'm kind of excited about that.
I guess that's kind of somewhat interesting, the cybersecurity field, because now that you've got all these systems being run with artificial intelligence, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to see a world where it's just going to be AI versus AI trying to hack systems. I don't really know what that looks like. I don't develop on that level. So, but that's an interesting warfare there.
Well, it was really funny because like you really do become what you put out into the world, and I literally have called myself a dork for I don't even know how long. And the fact that that's kind of what I fall under was pretty hysterical to me. So you got to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes.
I think we've all got a little nerd and dorkness, in there, especially in and around these spaces with the things that we're all into. And it's good fun.
Death Ranger, are you talking? Because I can't hear you. Do I need to drop down?
Yeah, he was unmuted. Oh no, we've lost our
Yeah,
co-host.
okay, he dropped down.
He rode.
Dazzling. We could totally hijack the space right now. There's only, oh man, he's back.
He's still hosting though on the other account. We cannot do that.
That's quite funny. My fault. I had a phone call really quickly there, and I missed the last 30 seconds or so. Up to you guys if you would like to retort and let me hear what I missed.
I was just calling myself a dork, and yeah, it was just funny. And then I said I was going to take over your space.
Oh, you're welcome to. Also, welcome up, Tammy and Ghost. Welcome to the space, guys, and feel free to jump in the conversation if there's anything you guys would like to say. Tammy, I don't mean to, at least off the, I should really let you introduce yourself first, right? Because you played, and your team played an integral role in Zahao going live, and not to put you on the spot, but if you would like to. I'd love to have you join the conversation.
Sure. No, hi. I've been Twitter trolling all day just to see the reaction of everything, and I saw that this jumped on. I was supposed to be at a soccer game, but that didn't happen. So my son will forgive me this one time, since an entirely new network was launched today. But let's all root for the Fairweather Suns so that they win in my absence today. They probably will win because I'm not there, right? But no, I'm Tammy, co-CEO, co-founder of FIO. FIO stands for For Your Eyes Only. Our name is FIO, not GoFIO. That's just our stupid Twitter handle because somebody squatted on our name. So we are stuck with that Twitter handle. But we have been performing the audit. We are currently working on the Evernode audit. We're part of the governance game and just really excited to see how all of this unfolds. I was telling Vitsa and Richard the other day just how grateful I am for a chance for a security firm to actually participate in some of the fun stuff. We're actually builders. We build security tools, but we pay our bills doing security audits because we're a self-funded company. So to be invited to actually take part in the conversation and be part of building stuff, we have some stuff we're going to be launching on this ourselves that we're really excited about, because for us, security audits is just the tip of the iceberg. Super important that companies do it. Companies should do more than one audit if they can afford it, because more eyes are better. As much community driven as it can be, it should be. But we think that it's going to be critical to continue to raise the security awareness. That's why we launched our little crypto fishies on XRP Cafe ahead of this. It wasn't just a PR stunt. We really are trying to have people self-identify as folks who want to help us get this message out. We're small, we're self-funded, and we're the little engine that could, and we do need a little bit of an army around it to kind of force the issue of building securely. And when a new sidechain launches with all this great functionality, what a chance to build all this cool new stuff that this world needs to really fully embrace the decentralized world in Web3. So we're thrilled to be here. Some of my co-founders, the smarter ones than me, might join in a little bit. This was a last minute thing, but I'll let you know who they are if they do, so they could speak. But thanks for letting me join. And sorry, my dogs are barking in the
No,
background.
don't be sorry at all. I really appreciate you introducing yourself, and I've really enjoyed that. I actually didn't realize that you were also auditing some of the code that Evernote will be using. So that's cool. I'd like to ask more information about which actual part of the code base that you guys are looking at. Of course, that's more of a question for the devs, so don't even worry about it. But if they do join, that would be super fun. Dazzling though, man. You got your hand up. Sorry, Tammy, go ahead first.
Oh no, I was just going to say, so for the Zaha audit, the tweet that we put out earlier today has the report and it explains everything that we audited. And as soon as Evernote's done, a similar report will be put out for that. We try to be as transparent as possible.
Awesome. I really look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's been Evernote have been a little bit quiet lately, and I've heard a few people ask about what they're doing in the background. So it's kind of nice to hear that someone is auditing the code and doing something there. So obviously, the security concerns to how much you can speak to on that. And that's totally fine. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for kind of giving us that insight there. But also with the crypto fishies, are we going to see any kind of utility for that? I'd maybe like to see some sort of game or something like a Tamagotchi type of thing where you could like feed it and look after it or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
We're super open to it. So the next thing we want to try to do is do some experimentation to have it cross the ocean. So get some of this stuff on the actual Zaha side of the house. So we're quietly working on that. I'm going to be deploying a special edition version just for Zaha, just to see how that works. So stay tuned. We're still trying to figure out all the details around that. Right now, the utility is having people self-identify as people who give a shit. Sorry, but that's like really what I needed, because there's a lot of people that talk about a lot of stuff, and I've struggled to find that security community. And so right now it's that. It's also that we have a number of tools that are in beta that we want our crypto fishy holders to get access to first. So we have an anti-phishing phishing, get it? An anti-phishing agent that you can install. We actually have a truly decentralized password manager, and those things are both in beta. But what we're hoping to do is, as we start releasing different releases, releasing them to our fish holders first, to really help us test them and help it then get out there. But I'd love to gamify it. I mean, Brian, who I think he might be picking up his son from school, so he's my co-CEO. He's obsessed with gamifying it and desperately wants to, but we gotta mint them out first. And all the money that comes from it is going to go towards us deploying some super cool stuff. And we want people to help us. So there's a Discord, join it. I have a collab channel. I have a chat channel. Like, we are wide open. This was a total research project, went PR stunt, went experiment that I'm just going to keep swimming with because it's kind of fun.
That is super cool. Not only are you guys providing really important tool sets to the community and to projects and providing audits to code, but also creating really cool different ideas and concepts. I look forward to see what you guys do with the at whatever you build toolset utilizing the NFT as some sort of pass to acquire the said toolset. I think that's a really great use case when it comes down to NFTs. Other than the ability to have this metadata that points to this image that somebody can find joy in seeing the image, and I think you guys gifted me a fishy that I very much so enjoy. But you can utilize this NFT or this digital identifier that cryptographically is owned by a wallet that you have authorization of, and it can grant you some sort of access somewhere that another individual can't without having that piece of information. So I love seeing that.
Thanks.
So I have a bias though, I guess, towards you guys. So I may seem too affectionate. So I'm also sorry about that.
No, well, we'll accept your bias. No, I mean that the whole thing is there's a lot of really great people doing really great things, and there's a lot of very smart security people doing really great things, and we're not trying to say that we're the only people with a good head on our shoulders around security. What we are trying to do is create a space where more people can participate in the conversation. With crypto, we just tend to find that people talk about speculation, people talk about utility of a network, but people don't always talk about like the biggest barrier to adoption, which is that people get hacked. And they don't just get hacked by the code. That's the other thing. They get hacked by the social engineering, the phishing, the losing their keys because they gave them away. And so we're really trying to build, I mean, we're protecting right now, we're doing threat monitoring. We're doing it for the Zum wallet. We're doing it for XRP Cafe. And we're trying to get the word out to do it for more people, because the best way to stop a hacker or a social engineering attack is to know that they've created a lookalike site to begin with, right? And then take it down when it becomes a phishing site, or have a free tool that just blocks it. So even if the bad guys decide to try to spoof you, you're not going to connect your wallet and have a wallet drain, because it's one step ahead. And how do you do that? You do that with enough people using it, with the AI getting smarter, which requires more people to use it. Fisco is the name of our AI. Fisco is our fish. Fisco actually means fish in Swedish. Thomas, my co-founder, Thomas, who's the CTO, is Swedish. So that's how all the names come together.
Go ahead, Dazzling. Jump in, man.
Sorry, yeah, just a quick one. Is it okay if I share an invite to your Discord? The link, sorry, Tammy?
Yes, sorry. My co-founders are all trying to join, and they're like, where the hell is this link? And so I'm like, I'm just trying to get it. Yes, of course you can. It's also on our homepage. Are you able to see it? How the heck do I share? Oh, I got it. Share via. That makes it so much easier. All right. I think I'm going to get a couple more of my team to join.
Well, thank you very much, Tammy. And you actually made a very strong point there with if you're stopped from the entering of the website, which essentially then is the gateway to you giving access, granting access to your keys or your crypto, sending your NFTs to some sort of malicious actor, right? At least at that point, you've had a tool set that's prevented you from, at least even if there's a profile built on you and somebody's tried to fish, and gather a lot of information to lead you to this point. I really enjoy that prevents you from being attacked.
No, it does. And actually, Brian, my co-CEO, and David, our president and CFO, you could see the two fish. They just joined as well. Brian was finishing up a call, but I was like, we're talking about gamifying the fish. You need to join, because Brian actually used to be, way back when, the head of growth over at Stellar. We're talking a lifetime ago. And has such a background in gaming. And for years, he's been saying, we got to find a way to gamify security. And David is our resident chief financial analyst, our chartered financial analyst. So what's been fascinating is to have him watch kind of how the market trends that he's watched on Wall Street for over 20 years, and how that plays into crypto, but also the differences. And then the other person that just joined finally is Thomas Divefish, who is the one doing all the audits, who just finished the audit, who's working on Evernode, the threat model extraordinaire. So I give you my co-founders in case you want to hear from somebody who's much smarter than me.
I sent them all invites, so they're more than welcome to come up. And I think Thomas was the individual who was speaking with that last time in the space, right?
Yep. Go ahead, Thomas.
That was an excellent space. Welcome up, Thomas.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
And David, welcome up. Thank you for coming to the space.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
So in reference to the gamification, I'd like to go back to that, because it's something that I when I think about NFTs in particular, I see this as a really large use case model for this as some individuals think about it as the image itself, right? The metadata that this cryptographic identifier is pointing to. But I really favor the ability to use the cryptographic identity that somebody can prove having authorization and authentication over, um, in settings where, I think the thing you had mentioned earlier, Tammy, was having, first dibs to these tool sets, or granting access to some of the things that you guys as a team are building. And so, like a pass that grants you something that you wouldn't have been able to acquire if you didn't own the particular piece of object that exists on in this case the XRP ledger in the form of an NFT.
I'm going to let Brian and Thomas kind of take that because, like I said, we've been talking about the utility of our crypto fishies. And Brian and Thomas,
Yeah,
over to
no,
you guys.
no,
You guys build all our cool stuff.
and I totally agree with that. I mean, reading the original NFT paper on Ethereum, the ECR paper, I mean, the intention was never to do bored apes. I mean, having GIF images was never the intentions of NFTs. And I think what happened then was that the art world came in and said, oh, we can do digital content and get people mix it up with the digital rights management system, which it was never intended to be. It was more intended, as you're saying, this is a ticket that you own something, not the metadata that it's tied to. It's actually what an NFT is in its simplest form, is a ticket that you own the right to something which points to by a metadata. So I mean, it's a value holder that can change hands, and that's basically what an NFT is. It has nothing to do, as you say, with actually owning what the metadata points to. So I think this is the big future, and we're now there in the hype cycle where I think we are starting to see what NFTs will become. Because I do think they have a place, and I don't think it's pixelated monkeys. If that's my summarization.
No, I love it, Thomas, and I like to also go back to historical context, right? Like the Renaissance, art was used as a sociological shift to actually create a lot of the fuel that created the changes that had occurred in society. And so, just like you said, the hype cycle we're kind of in, I feel like we're in that kind of like revolutionary step where we all see this thing. We really like the thing. We don't really know what the thing is yet, but there are individuals who understand the potential of this, and it's excellent to have other individuals in the space who understand it. Yeah. If any of you guys would like to speak about, though, and of course, if it's things that you guys are building that you don't want to share, I mean, don't share it. But if there's any aspects of the way that you guys are utilizing it and some of the tool sets and ways that you guys are setting it up, if you'd like to speak about it, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I can speak there a bit as well, Tam, and we talked about FIO ID as well. So we are working on like a decentralized password manager. So one way of these NFTs for us, would be to qualify beta tester and actually give people with this NFT pre-release versions, etc., of upcoming versions, because then we have a more trusted user base to interact with in like closed betas, etc. So that's one of the ways that we're going to work with these NFTs to actually verify them, because our upcoming decentralized password manager is actually private key based. So you're actually going to work with a public private key pair, very similar to some wallet, but actually generate legacy passwords on that. And that's something that we have in internal beta now and are going to roll out to external beta fairly soon. And then definitely the holders of the cryptofish will be the ones that gets in the first beta testing group there.
That's super cool. Are you guys are you storing the password on the device?
We are not storing any password. They're actually calculated with your key. So we have a KDF function that actually calculates the password when you fill them, based on the key and some metadata.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, we're not sure when it's going to launch because we're actually in the middle of doing some redesign on the blockchain backend, and where we're using the blockchain here, as you said, it's not to store the password hashes or the encrypted password. It's more to actually store the metadata that's needed. For instance, a hash of your username and a hash of the site where you're going, and a nonce, which is actually the number of times that you change password on the site. So that's what we store on the blockchain. And then using your private key, we generate or calculate a derived key, which we transpose into valid password space for that site. So yeah, we're really, and we're running this internally. It's working really well. And now we're trying to move it over to a more open and decentralized blockchain, because we've written this proof of concept. So we're not decentralized at all right now. We're just basically internally testing it.
It's a really interesting concept, but I'm actually I'm trying to wrap my head around the complexity of it, because it's it's interesting. And are you using some sort of like AI smart tooling set in the back end that helps you rearrange this information and be able to calculate that this metadata means this information?
Not really. So it's one-way hash functions for the metadata. So there's one hash where you take like the HTTPS www.google.com, and you translate that to hash, and then you run this through what's called a KDF, which are actually used in wallets. It's a key derivation function. So similar to like BIP38 on Bitcoin, which has like derived wallets where you can derive one key from another. We're doing similar cryptographic calculations to get the password that is correct for your key, for your site, and for your username.
That does sound pretty cool. I look forward to testing.
I just posted the closed beta link if you want to apply to post it. Brian will activate you in there, and we're looking for feedback, and Thomas is figuring out, once we could get our heads above water with the Evernote audit, and make sure all the validator stuff is running smoothly. Exactly how we utilize how to deploy all of the stuff, that all the missing stuff that we haven't yet done. So it's been a labor of love uh, for a self-funded company, but this is the year this year and into next year, this is when it launches, and this is where it launches, as far as I'm concerned. Brian, you hear me on that one? I'm putting a line in the sand, or did I lose Brian? At least Thomas and David heard me. So.
Well, I look forward to it, and thank you. I'd like to definitely participate. The password manager thing is something that I've been interested in a long time. But I'm not able to have conversations with the developers and the people building it, and most are not open source, right, or where you understand the complexity going on. So I truly have not really trusted any, but I look forward to this. So this is cool. Shelper, so you got your hand up, please. Tom, so if you want to speak first, and then Shelper.
I just wanted to ask, is it only for the PC desktop?
No, we have a mobile version as well. We have both iOS and Android versions of the app, and you can transfer the keys via encrypted QR code between your devices. So it's going to be fairly distributed.
Thank you, Thomas.
And yeah, actually regarding password manager, actually Brian just sent me an article today why we need to get this out, because there was on average $4.4 million stolen per day from leaked passwords. Most of them through the latest password manager hacks, where actually hackers are using encrypted log files to retrieve like seed phrases, etc., and drain wallets. So I mean, this is a big problem in general, but specifically for crypto users as well, because a lot of people were using LastPass and 1Password to actually store their seed phrases, etc.
Oof, that is a recipe for disaster. That's so strange. Twitter is being weird today. I followed Brian before, but it just showed me that I wasn't following him.
We got Brian back.
He is back.
Yeah, it crashed for me per usual.
Brian can crash anything. He is the #1 bug tester in our company, and if it exists, he can crash it.
Well, welcome up. Would you like to hop in the conversation? Any of your thoughts or ideas of anything you've heard talked about so far, or anything you guys are building?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem with security is there's, in most cases, when nothing's going wrong, there's very little feedback mechanism, which means there's nothing to encourage people to be safer online, right? I mean, even if it's a simple token, a trophy warning, similar to what you would get in any type of like game that you're playing. I mean, even take Duolingo, just like the sound and that type of like reward feedback indicates to you that you're doing something positive. One of my ideas from the beginning for both our password manager and our anti-phishing extension is to find some type of mechanism to reward users to let them know that they've behaved safely online, whether that's like, hey, you report 10 phishing sites and you're rewarded with, I don't know, another crypto fishy, or getting to the like different levels. It feels like you're rewarding by giving some type of accomplishment, and at the same time you're able to better educate people to behave safer online. I think with pretty much any piece of security out there, the reason nobody's like really engaged in it is there's nothing rewarding about it. It's simply a tool. But if you really want to get people to become part of creating a safer ecosystem, there has to be some type of feedback mechanism that lets them know they're, quote unquote, progressing, getting to that next level, unlocking that next achievement, which goes a lot into then like what's the reward you're getting from that, which Thomas spoke briefly to. I mean, that's what I've seen from working in mobile gaming to platform gaming. It's all about unlocking that next achievement, because then it becomes really a competition to be able to show on some type of leaderboard that you're better than everybody else. I mean, that's a lot of the reason people like to play games. They like to compete against friends, against communities. And I think if we can create that mechanism, we'll create broader adoption and a safer ecosystem.
Oh, that's interesting. And so going back to the gamification aspect of it, are you guys doing something along those lines with the crypto fishies? In with like if you participate and provide some sort of feedback, you get an NFT from you guys?
So right now, I mean, Tammy the crypto fishes was the brainchild of Tammy, actually, to create conversation and tie, the idea of security to some type of NFT. And I think what we just launched is really the start, and the end goal is to create this rewards-based system for participation.
The goal is when Thomas and Brian will build it for me, it will happen. But yes, I told Thomas on the last Spaces, I'm like, I would love somehow if the fish could actually unlock your FIO ID for your identity. Like, I would love to tie all of this together, but you got to give us some time, because we're a small company trying to do some big stuff, and funding has never doesn't come easy to a company that's part services and part product. So we've literally bootstrapped our entire existence.
4 or 5 years, mind you.
For 5 years, under the frugal financial leadership of our president and CFO, David, who has kept us in line. David has something to say. You can, David, you just have to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, no, I was just simply going to say, with talented individuals who are full of ideas like Thomas and Brian and Tammy, it's like herding cats around here. But I would echo, Thomas's comment about security being, obviously very important. To the extent that people use centralized passwords and have information pertaining to their wallets that lead to their being hacked and losing funds, I mean, that's not helping anybody, and obviously it's causing a lot of pain. We hope that FIO ID, can actually fix that problem by taking a decentralized approach. So please sign up for the beta, and we'd love to make everybody in this community safer. Thank you.
Death Ranger. Just if anyone thinks David's voice sounds familiar, just a little FIO trivia. So David for years has been on CNBC and Bloomberg and talking about financial markets. But David's little crypto claim to fame was, I think it was back in 29, whatever the year was that Bitcoin dropped to 5,000. He called it 2 months before it did it on TV. So fun times. Glad it's bounced back.
But now I'm doing Fisco voiceovers.
Very cool. And I really appreciate you coming to the space today, David, and speaking. And I know I said it a whole bunch of times, but I look forward to the things that you guys are building. And I hear you guys with, how difficult it is to truly be able to build and produce tools at the same time as doing things like security audits, which fund you guys and fund the research that you guys are doing. So I couldn't give you kudos enough to keep it going, and I really hope that you guys stick around and keep on this directional pathway. I hope the community itself and the ecosystems, the direction you're going, truly does pay off for the tool sets and the things that you are building, which, back to the point, it really can save people their entire life savings that they've put into these assets that they think will appreciate and value, and to have an individual lose that, or even just simple information that gets taken from people that they grant by granting the passwords and information to other individuals. It's truly appreciated. Dazzling, you've been very patient. You have your hand up. I'm sure your hand is very tired. Please feel free.
Al, yes, circulation of blood. To the comments about herding cats, I would just like to remind you guys what a cat's favorite food is. Okay, but moving on. I was just kind of curious about. I'm probably not going to phrase this as well as I'd like to, but
a fish. Sorry, I just got your joke. Cats eat fish, right? I was like mouse. I'm like, where's he going with this? We do fish. Cats eat fish. Good job.
Cats like to eat fish.
Now,
A little slow on the uptake today. Sorry about that.
That's so good. What was my question? Oh, so like, yeah. So with quantum computing coming out, how's what you guys do? Like, what's the research behind looking at how to protect people against quantum computing?
You got the right guy, Thomas. That's
yeah.
how we met Thomas. We
Yeah,
met
just
Thomas working on something with quantum. I'm going to give this all to Thomas. He's going to love this. Yeah, good question.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, the interesting thing with quantum computing is that there is actually new papers coming out on this daily, and as we know in crypto, if quantum computing happens on the scale where we think it's accelerating, this will happen fairly soon. However, the keys are some of the keys, like the ED 25519 keys that we're using in most of the blockchains, will be broken fairly simple, but not as simple as the traditional RSA encryption. And most of the research right now in the quantum encryption space is going into what's called KDF, or not KDF, QDF, quantum like key distribution, sorry, QKD. And so there's two parts of this. There's quantum cracking, which is actually when we get 100 qubit quantum computer at stable temperatures, because now you need to be very close to zeros. It's very hard to actually crack anything with them. When that happens, we will need to change the keying algorithm of all our wallets. That's just the truth of it. And that has nothing to do with FIO, or it does, but it has to do with everyone. So, and everyone is sort of aware of quantum computers coming, and everyone is looking at the space. However, I was on a previous project trying to build a quantum secure blockchain. But you know how big the keys and the transaction gets if you want to be quantum secure today? Somewhere between 2 and 4K. So that's a real problem for both. And people want fast transactions, right? And just to give you context, your key today is like 17 to 21 bytes. And now we're talking about thousands of times bigger key spaces to be truly quantum secure. So we did manage there was a company I was advising, Quantum OneNet. We did manage to make a blockchain, but it was very slow and very tedious. And the transaction speeds would be like Bitcoin. if you were to do it today. Even if you took XRP and transposed that to quantum secure keys, you would get transaction speeds like Bitcoin. And that's the problem. So everyone's watching this space, but I don't think we'll see general adoption to quantum secure keys unless the problem gets materializes and actually people start cracking the keys using quantum computers.
Oh, it's such an interesting topic, and I see we sparked some hands. Chris, you have not gotten a chance to speak. If you would like to jump in, and then David, please feel free to speak after Chris.
Well, my question was about the password manager. So if David's going to talk on the AI stuff and the quantum, then I'll wait for him to finish.
Certainly, I was just going to say quickly in passing that I had met Thomas as a result of the Quantum OneNet project because I was working with them and advising on that as well. That was back in the distant days of 2017. But obviously, we've been grappling with this problem and thinking about it. But thank you.
Right. So I'm really interested in hearing more about the password solution you were describing. Well, I've got a number of questions. The first one is, do you have an actual technical explanation somewhere that I can read on how it actually all functions? My second point was, are you building this to be open source? And the third one is, if you were, and if the method that you are using proves to be more secure, do you believe companies like 1Password would potentially look to copy the model and just spin to using a decentralized version because they have an entire customer base ready to rock? They just don't have they're not using that decentralized tech. I just wondered if you'd considered that and whether that was a potential for you for monetization in the future.
So yeah, a couple of questions here. The first is, yes, there is a blog post. Basically, first we wrote the patent that we actually got for this. We do have a patent which is sort of approved, I think. We're very late in the process anyway, but it's been running a couple of years. So we've taken that patent application and I've written a extensive blog post. I can't remember where it is now on the webpage, but it's published somewhere. That actually describes the key functionality and how it actually works.
Thomas, I got you. I just posted it, and I also updated the link to the private beta because the one I had posted earlier was actually for our anti-phishing beta, which you can also join. You can join all of our betas, but I also posted the blog post.
So there is a detailed blog post that goes through the KDF function and how we calculate the passwords. And I mean, the goal with this, we're not there yet, but since we're calculating the password with the nonce, we can also calculate the next one. So the idea is, the end goal of this would be a password manager that actually log into sites and change your passwords for you, so you can actually rotate your password. We're not there yet, but it's early days. And the second question was, is this intended for open source? Yes, we don't think I wouldn't use a password manager that is not open source. So we're definitely after beta going to open source this. Obviously, we are going to have to do same. We're going to eat our own dog food and have other people do extensive code reviews, etc., of our code before we actually open source it again. So there is a process in this, and we are not going to open source it until we have actually concluded the beta testing and make sure that it really works and is audited. But yeah, of course, it's intended to be open sourced.
And Thomas, we're also looking into securing the right grants because it's one thing for us to run it. It's another thing to make sure that wherever we release it is going to keep it running. So that's why we've been very careful, right, Thomas, about how and where we deploy it. Because once everyone puts their passwords on it, it can't just go away.
No, exactly, and that's why we want it truly decentralized. So if FIO LLC, I don't know, goes bankrupt for some reason, we want it to be open source and live and be driven by a community or at least by a foundation that keeps the nodes running. Because it needs to run on a stable network, not just our network, because otherwise it would be, and that's why I wouldn't use 1Password or these like pay for solution. If I stop paying, I lose access to my password. That's just stupid. So we wanted to be able to be free or almost free for the users to actually just pay for transaction fees, if that makes sense.
Do you foresee some of the bigger password companies following suit?
Well, they are adopting, not the bigger password companies. I don't think so, because we haven't seen very much innovation from them. What we have seen is both the FIDO Alliance, and we are seeing now the KeyPass. Apple is implementing and Google is implementing these passkey solutions, which is a similar solution to ours, but that doesn't work on legacy system. So we are seeing the FIDO Alliance having some sort of, it's been more slowly than I thought, but now, for instance, logging into Binance, you can now log in with FIDO keys from Apple or from Google. So we are seeing the community moving to this, and that's actually very similar to our solution. However, we can also fail in traditional legacy sites that don't support this.
And we're also platform agnostic as well, which is another key feature, I would say. And we're seeing there is innovation happening elsewhere, but it's on features.
Yeah,
it's not the like base of the platform that's not changing. And you know, I got into this whole world of Web3 because a lot of my basis was putting financial freedom and like ownership of data back in the hands of users. And so everything that we're building is designed to eventually do that.
Did that answer all of the questions? I think so.
Yeah, certainly did. Thank you. I've got to find the article now.
That was awesome, and thank you very much, Chris, for asking questions.
Can we get that pinned at the top? The link pinned at the top.
I actually think Tammy put it in the at the.
I put it in the chat and I just DM'd it to you, Chris.
Oh, you're the best. I'll put both of them up top as well. They're both up top as well now too, just in case for everyone in the space. But I really love that you put it in the bubble, so it's there for anybody who listens to the space in the future. I'd love to go back to the thought of quantum computing and processors for a second, if that's okay, Thomas. Because this is something that I've thought about for a long period of time as well, and I've always kind of thought or been under the impression that in the near future, when we do have quantum processors on a scale where it not only can be utilized with having some sort of mathematical calculation that can be processed and understood from the quantum processors, but relay back to an actual computational system that exists off of the internet. My thought, or the notion I thought I understood, would be that there would be this necessity to have custodial services for wallets, because you can't expect anybody, right, to be able to copy down thousands of characters and be able to not only have that safe and stored, but every time you do a transaction, have to roll that secret phrase over and create a new wallet, because that's really the only way to keep it quantum secure. Hearing your thoughts on, even if we were to raise the character limits, the bit limits, such a significant amount on the XRP ledger would create such a lag time. Are there any thoughts on the way that blockchain infrastructure work today that could possibly get around that? I know there's some talks of things like DAGs, which is a digital acrylic graph that the concept has been around for a long period of time, but even in that kind of formation of validation of agreement of transactions in a consensus methodology, would that provide enough of a buffer to keep the speed of the network itself to be able to process transactions and be utilized?
That's a good question. I mean, there is a lot of research, obviously, right now happening in the quantum resistant cryptography space. And I mean, NIST have had there are several competing algorithms that are being proposed, and NIST in the US, like NIST.gov, have held a sort of a competition similar to what they did with like hash algorithms, or what NSA did before with hash algorithms. No one trusts NSA when it comes to encryption. So NIST is doing this, and there's a lot of research going on. And that thing, that the only way to derive this key material, yes, the keys are going to become longer. However, there is new key. How do you call it? For instance, there is. I'm trying to remember all the names here, but there is like key hashing functions which you can mathematically securely extend the key space with. And they're called like sponge algorithms. So I read some papers on this. So the idea is that you would take a technically smaller key space that you can sort of generate from a mnemonic, and from thereby running it through a sponge model, which is like you pump it with data and expand it and pump and expand and pump and expand. You can actually and this is my understanding. I'm not fully sure I can actually explain this in a very good way. But you can Google those algorithms, and that's one of the way that people are proposing solving the quantum problem, to actually have a key and a KDF function, which is a sponge model that actually dynamically extends the key material to the length that is needed for the security that you need. So, but again, that would need a two-way communication similar to Diffie-Hellman algorithm to actually negotiate the longer key. So you would start with a couple of smaller keys, pump that back and forth together in an algorithm to create a longer key material. That would be quantum secure.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and I thank you for giving me your thoughts on it. Obviously, there's no real answer today, especially as it's we're kind of going with the flow, evolving with it. But I have looked into some of the four NIST algorithms they put out. I think it was like 2 years ago already. I think one of them was like off the top of my head, the Crystallius dilithium, which is the that encryption hash algorithm. And it'll be interesting to see how and when, if they're implemented and able to be adopted in these in the blockchains that we have today, how that would evolve on those networks. I wonder if thinking about something like a Bitcoin, do you think that a network that already kind of poses this slow transaction speed has any chance of surviving or being able to upgrade with a quantum resistant protocol?
Good question. I think so, because they have more time to actually distribute the keys, because their transaction speed are so low. So as long as you also have decent network speed, they should have a better chance than something that's like super quick to do this. Because I mean, as we're saying, the transactions are getting longer, and the checksums are getting longer, and the signatures are getting longer. But I mean, all of these, like the swings is one example that comes to mind. We could theoretically in a blockchain just change the ED 25519 to swings plus or something, and we would be quantum secure. However, that would affect ledger times and block times, obviously.
Yeah, it was a really interesting thought there. It definitely made me laugh, so I thank you. But that was great. Dark Horse, though, man, welcome up, and you've been raising your hand, so I thank you for being patient. Please feel free to jump in the conversation.
No, mate, I love the talk of quantum. I've heard Thomas before, and every time he talks, he always blows my brain with the quantum stuff. Can I come back to the project that you was all talking about? I've just got a couple of questions on the actual preface on it. How much memory does this use if it's running in the background and it's using AI technology to be able to check to see if I'm being scammed? And the other question is when I click on a link and I know it's safe, is there any way to override the link as well? Because I'm assuming this is just going to use AI to kind of block me. I've got ad blockers on, and I sometimes have to turn them off to get through sites.
Oh, you're talking about the agent extension.
I think Dark Horse is talking about the phishing one, not the
Yeah,
ID.
so on the phishing one, currently we are running the basically how this works. It's a reputation database which is fed by an AI, and the AI is running centralized on our servers for now. However, the database is fully distributed, so it's something called an RxDB, which is a cluster database, which is all the latest Web 2.5 stuff. So it will replicate into your extension and eat some of your bandwidth to actually replicate the latest, like found phishing sites. But actually, AI is trained daily on our servers, and then we feed all the new sites that pop up every day that are registered, and we scan them for a month, and then we figure out if they're phishing sites or not, or if a phishing site has popped up on those sites, and then we add them to the database, which is in real time distributed to all the clients.
So sorry, Thomas, just to ask further questions on this. I use an ad blocker at the moment, right? And that uses a very similar technology where it goes and updates the database itself, and it reads in from a list of information from prior sites that have been found. Are you saying that this AI will actually read the website in real time on my page, see if it's
No, that's what I'm saying. New sites will be sampled when they are registered or updated by separate spiders, not by yours, because we don't want to know from a privacy perspective which sites you're going to. But we will track and spider new sites as they come up in various lists. And the big difference here is that AdBlocker has like text file lists, very old school. We just have, similar to a Merkle tree of hashes. So we will distribute a Merkle tree of hashes of domains that are bad. So we're using a much more modern technology, similar to how you do in a blockchain. You have a Merkle tree of hashes, and we hash the domain names, and we distribute that. So that is why our database is much smaller and can contain hundreds and thousands of sites, phishing sites, without being too big to clog down your network.
And if you want to accept the risk and go, there's a button in there that says, nope, I would like to go to this site anyway. And we have that so you can move forward. But the other piece is that what I put into the chat is our free tool for everyone to use, because the more people use it, the more people who report, stuff that Fisco hasn't found yet, the smarter it gets. But we also have, clients paying customers. I said we're doing the threat monitoring for the Zum wallet and other Web3 projects that they are using this and deploying it to their teams. And when one of their teams says, "Oh, I'd like to go to that site," sorry, they get alerted back into the portal that Thomas and Brian built to say, "Hey, Dark Horse on your team just went to this nefarious site. You may have just been compromised as an organization."
I was about to say, because most corporations actually implement something like this already on a big scale within inside the company networks,
but
right?
they only do it for inside. Like that's
That's
one of the
right.
reasons the catalyst for building this on the phishing side is, we've been collecting data from the dark web and just continuing to look at registered domains and training our AI for years now. And we're sitting with 29 billion leaked credentials in our database, right? And 22 billion cracked passwords and 500 million phone numbers. And that's the sort of stuff that they're not necessarily blocking for in their internal systems. They're saying, here's a list of sites and somebody went to it, but there's no unified way that it's coming back. It's, Brian, you always joke when we're talking to people about it. It's like, yeah, that guy, Tom in IT, who's like, did you watch this really boring video on good, secure hygiene? And everyone's like, yes. And did you change your password? Yes. And in the end, it really takes everyone in the organization to be safe, but even more so on the Web3 side, the stakes are just so high.
I mean, this has quite a good. Sorry to jump in, Tammy, but this has. If you actually look at the scope of this, if you could get every company to actually utilize this and license this out to the companies themselves, and all sharing the databases that you're actually holding. This would actually save a lot of IT time as
Want
well,
to
wouldn't
help
it?
us?
Because
Want to help us do that? Self-fund it, as I said at the beginning. If people bought our products, we could build this bio identity and more free stuff, right, Thomas?
the the only downside I see is that the fact that you are actually collecting personal information. Are you guys covering your
Actually, we're
assets
not.
for
We're
the
not. So, Thomas, do you want to
good,
speak a little about the
good.
PII portion?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, on the agent, it's actually, I'm a very privacy focused person. So the agent is actually doesn't have any report back to us. It only sucks data from our database and distributes this between the peers that are having the extension installed. However, you can report with it. If it goes to a phishing site and say, this is a suspicious site, you can actually go in and report it to us. Then our AI will go there again, spider it, update the database, and make a new suggestion. So it will, as long as 2 users reported a site as like safe or non-safe, it will go back and rerun the AI algorithms and reclassify the site. So it's like a closed loop system, but there is no feedback from to our system unless the user opts in to actually send, like, want to report the site, and that's very important.
Yeah.
And could you actually create a? I'm so sorry, whoever was trying to sort that. Could you actually create a suite of packages here to actually sit inside an Outlook to actually check emails as well before they open using this
Um,
AI?
Well, yes and no. We choose them to block in the browser level because eventually you are going to get to the browser sooner rather or later. So and there is so many competitors blocking in email and in Outlook, etc. So we have so much competition in that space that there is, like, I don't know what they're called, Proofpoint and Iron Fort, or there's
Yeah.
hundreds of them.
Avatara. Yeah.
So we don't want to go into that space, but we want to be the second line of defense if you click through an email or if it comes from Telegram. And I mean, nowadays, especially in the Web3 space, I would say 80% of the malicious links comes from Telegram. It's like no
Or
one clicks through an
Discord?
email anymore. Discord and
Discord.
Telegram,
Yeah.
yeah.
I just
It's
wanted to
why
add
that's
too.
it's why I don't
Sorry.
really go into discuss. Guys, I appreciate you letting me up. I've got to fly, but thank you very much for allowing me to ask the questions, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course.
And thank you very much for letting me up, Death and Internet Value and Shellfish and Dazzling. To these guys.
Thank you for coming, Dark Horse. And I'm not sure who unmuted there, but please feel free to quit.
Yeah. I just wanted to add in one thing. So because we have this large database, we also want to expose to any of our users for FIO agent if their email address has been part of a breach, and show them what information was actually leaked by referencing our database. But for FIO identity, for the super privacy users, and goes back to Thomas's like hypersensitive about his own privacy. If you create a password manager account with us, we actually have the option. If you don't want that identity monitoring, we made it so it's as simple as creating like essentially a crypto wallet where you just create an account with a master password and you don't give us any of your information. The only information we actually ask if you want the identity monitoring is to verify ownership of an email address for obvious reasons, since we're disclosing very private information. So you can create a completely anonymous account with FIO identity.
Oh, wow, that's excellent. You actually answered a question I had that I forgot to ask beforehand, because I was going to ask, right, the mention, I heard the mention before of the QR code that you could scan to import your password manager from one device to the next. And I was thinking to myself, like, what if you break your device? But you could have a secret phrase, or just I guess an email and a password with you guys. You have both the options are accessible.
Yeah, so we have a recovery kit. That's how the QR code is generated. So it's similar to that. That's one of the downsides if you want to be really private is, as of right now, we do have some ideas in the works of how we could handle this. But, if you lose your recovery kit and you forget your password, you are locked out. But we do have some ideas on how we can get around with this without giving away any like privacy or security concerns.
But it's the same thing as with your normal wallet. I mean, if you do lose all your secret numbers or your seed phrase, we are not going to be able to access your passwords. It's as simple as that. It's like your coins are gone, and your tokens and your passwords. And that is, so we're trying to make it easy. So we both make a QR code that's encrypted with a passphrase that you have set, that to recover your key together with the recovery phrase. So yeah, we're trying to do both for recovery, but you can never recover only with email and password.
That's excellent, and I'm glad you said that, because for maybe the everyday average individual who is not willing to yet take responsibility of their own sovereignty and data and information into their own hands. However, somebody like myself, I can speak for sure. I enjoy that, right? And I enjoy that it's on me. I understand that if I lose this information, that I won't have access to this the passwords and the information that I have saved here. However, I also am very secure with these passwords, so I enjoy that personally.
Yeah, and I think we are trying to build a password manager for people like ourselves in the Web3 community that are super privacy aware, and we started talking about this because basically we're looking at like LastPass and OnePassword. It's like, does it make sense to send your encrypted master key to someone else's vault? Why would I do that? Coming from like the Web3 background of like public private keys, that just doesn't make sense to trust someone else that much.
Exactly, I couldn't agree more. This has been a really great conversation, and coming up, we have about 15-20 minutes left. I'm probably going to close it around 5 o'clock tonight. Anything from you guys, Tammy, David, Thomas, anything off the top of your head that you guys would like to add in about any future project or any thoughts about anything we've spoken about? And then I'll probably steer it over to Zahao a little bit and just do a kind of a generality about the differences between the XRP ledger and Zahao, some of the feature sets that are going live, or I should say are live already, and some of the capabilities that'll be able to be done.
No, that sounds good from my perspective. Unfortunately I need to jump fairly soon because I haven't had dinner yet because I've been super busy today. But yeah, I
Go
really
eat,
appreciate being
Thomas.
here.
No, and I really appreciate you being here, Thomas. So far, Thomas, 2 conversations out of 2. I've been impressed both times. So I really thank you for coming to the space and speaking so far today.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the rest of the talk. I hope I can listen a bit on the Sao bit as well, but I'm going to leave for now and get something to eat. Bye.
Thank you, Tom. Have a great dinner. And so, switching pathways, going over to speak about this Zahao LiveNet, back to the congratulations that I had spoken about earlier. XRP Labs, the alliance that was formed prior to the network going live. Really congratulations to everyone who has worked towards this moment, and the moment is here, and now it's really time to start the building and time to show what this new network is going to be able to be capable of doing. Some of the things to take away from why Zahao is, in my opinion, not only a very powerful network, but a really great aspect to show the possibilities of things that can be done on the XRP ledger from a future basis and or communication basis between networks. The most part being that the rippled code base that runs the protocols of the XRP ledger is 80% of the code that primarily exists on Zahao. And so, at 80% of that code base being the similar C++, means that these two networks will have the largest percentage, in my opinion, of being able to have amendments that are written on both networks that could create more interoperability between the two. Sorry. Now, it doesn't mean it necessarily will, and it could be that Zahao and the XRP ledger go down different pathways and amendments. And one example of this is actually the initial way that NFTs are being done on Zahao. It's they've started with the XLS 38 amendment, which is something that is 38, or was it 37? Ooh, Chris, you might know.
35.
35. Thank you.
35 thing.
Which is the dynamic NFTs, right? And so it's an actual different standard of the way that NFTs are being done on Zahao than they are on the XRP ledger. Now, it's not of extreme difference, but there are some slight differences that would make the transfer of one NFT to the network a little bit of an issue. For the most part, being, if I'm not mistaken, the dynamic NFTs have the ability for the URIs to be changed, which means it has this dynamic ability for the image to be changed. That the NFT's metadata is actually pointing to on the XLS20. If you've established a URI in the metadata field, that is not able to be changed. There are a couple projects that did not do that. Well, I should say they pointed to their own API, which enabled them to change the images as they pleased. But it's not really how we would think of NFTs today. I think, though, that the dynamic NFT, this way that you can keep the same NFT identification encryption, that long identification number, and change the image behind it, is really, really powerful. But Chris, please, man, you got your hand up. Please jump in.
It's been quite some time since I've read the specification on 35D, but I don't think that's right. I don't think the URI is dynamic. I don't think you can change the URI field once it's actually been written.
Is it not the dynamic?
So
it's either.
No, it's not. The 35D is
So
not the dynamic NFTs.
NFT page
No.
one, then, right?
Yeah, no. The 35D is basically just they describe it as sort of like a lightweight NFT. It's actually, the specification is actually a URI token, not an NFT, although it amounts to the same thing. And the big difference, which is the sort of the challenge of porting, is more around the actual way in which they're stored on the actual chain itself, because the URI tokens are actually a first class object on the ledger, whereas NFTs are on 20D, they're actually stored in pages of 32. So it has a different set of mechanics in terms of its actual storage. It has different mechanics in terms of its reserve amounts, and that would impact on how it actually is sort of like implemented. So it is different, but it's just a different way of doing it. I personally love the 35D standard, but what makes 35D really powerful is when you combine it with hooks. Because to be fair, it's just 35D on its own is just another version of an NFT, just done slightly differently. But when you combine it with hooks, it makes it incredibly powerful, and it brings programmability to NFTs. So that the use cases that we will see on Zahao around NFTs will be significant. I think if this is going to go where I think it's going to go, I think it'll be pretty significant.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because you're right. That was I think it is actually XLS 40. What was it, 47 that I'm speaking about? That dynamic NFT? No, it might have been 45. Man, I gotta look at the numbers again. Too many numbers. But yeah, it's right. The one specification of difference that I think is going to make a big difference, though, for, like, if you're thinking about like an NFT holder, is the fact that every NFT will have an associated cost of 2 XRP to be able to have that owned on the account, right? Or on Zahao, I'm not sure exactly what it is. You probably know better than me off the top of my head.
2 XRP for a page.
It is still, right?
So that's for a page of NFT though. So, and then they ramp up. So 2 for 32. But the Zahao has a totally different model. So I think Well, I don't know what it actually is finally landed on. It's either 0.1 or 0.2 Zahao per NFT.
That's right. So that would be the biggest change, was that it's each NFT is a class one object, and so it's looked at as almost, you can think of it as like a trust line, right? It's each one has to have a reserve set for the URI token that's owned.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. I knew the two existed. I had forgot which one. I thought that the dynamic one that is the one that got adopted, but I think it's just up for an amendment on the XP ledger at the moment.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that, though, is I would say, and again, this is just an opinion, I can't back it up by anything other than opinion. I would say if the dynamic NFTs proposal actually sort of like gets some steam, I think you're far more likely to see it on Zahao before you'll see it on the mainnet, because I think that's one of the other things about the Zahao network, which I think it's going to be significantly faster paced for development. So I think if we sort of like see, well, I say if the governance around Zahao feel that there is new functionality that the network will benefit from, I have a feeling that it won't be 6 to 9 months to get something through. I think once that code is ready, audited and ready to go and to be put up for an amendment, I think we'll be talking weeks, maybe a month or two max, because I think all of at least in the early days, everybody that's participating are all doing so on a kind of like a joint vision that they want to go. They want to do it right. They want to go faster, and I think a lot of the Zahao stuff is born out of the frustration about how slow everything is to move on the mainnet, and with for perfectly reasonable reasons. But I think Zahao will have a slightly higher risk tolerance, at least initially, and I think we'll see new amendments on Zahao a lot faster than what we will see on the mainnet.
And this is also, I think, Chris, you brought up a great example on why Zahao is so potently powerful and potential for not only Zahao but the XRP ledger. For if it's an amendment that we're looking at on the XRP ledger and we're thinking about voting in, if it gets amended and put into the code base that is very similar to the XRP ledger's rippled code base on Zahao's network, we can see how the functionality will interact and kind of make an assessment based off of that, plus whatever is occurring on the DevNet. This could also, I think, help speed up the amendment process slightly on the XRP ledger if it was more visible what this functionality change was going to do and create. So, yeah, I think it's a really great example you brought up. Dazzling, man. Please go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking with something that I'd seen the other day, and kind of just observing the sentiment around Zahao at the moment. Everyone's very excited about it. On BitTrue, they've offered the burn to mint there early, or that option there early for everybody, and I just kind of want to stress that not to FOMO into doing so at the moment, and to be kind of careful. Now, would it be worth highlighting the dangers of burning some XRP at this stage over to Zahao? I'm not aware of any dangers, but would it be worth highlighting for everybody, just so that everybody doesn't go and throw like 1,000 XRP into some Zahao tokens?
Well, I'll say my opinion on it, and it's if you're not planning on utilizing the functionality of Zahao, I find it very silly that you would burden a tradable asset that has value in U.S. dollars or any currency that you're able to trade it with that could be utilized in the real world to something that doesn't at the moment. And if you're that so much potentially wanting to be one of those individuals who just wants to buy the token no matter what anyone's going to tell you, there will be market making from the likes of GateHub and obviously BitTrue, who will be participating in having the token listed for sale. So, like that's a one methodology way of somebody who doesn't want to burn their tokens but also wants to still hold Zaha token. And Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I put a tweet out on it yesterday and it had a fair amount of interaction. I personally really dislike what they've done. And I made that point in my tweet. I think it's irresponsible, opportunistic, and personally valueless to it at this stage, because you for a start, that it was before the network had launched. Nobody knows what that value of the Zahao token is likely to be, due to the way in which the simple one-way bridge works. The price of Zahao will likely not exceed XRP, not for any sustained period of time, because it just as a great example, if for some reason there was a mad FOMO into buying it and people start trading it, and then you start buying it and you're doing a 2-for-1, so then anybody that owns XRP could burn to mint, move it across 1-for-1 and sell it in and sell it out. It's just it's an illogical position. So I don't see why they've done it, because there's no benefit to anybody to lock away XRP that will eventually get burned in order to get Zahao before the network was even live. And then the thing that I thought was even more irresponsible, having a trading competition on a token that's been stated 1,000 times is basically meant to be simply for gas, nothing more. It just seems to me that it's designed to get people to ape in and FOMO over a coin, and all that means is we're going to get another horrible mess like we had with Flare, where people get caught up and potentially end up paying significantly more for the token than they should be doing, and then when then everybody gets burned, and then a handful of people will probably get lucky and make a few quid. And I didn't like it. I still don't like it. I'm actually really pleased that Zahao has actually finally launched today, and that the window that they had was actually relatively small, which I think is going to help to reduce the potential damage that could have been done. We all saw what happened with Flare, and the price, the ridiculous prices people were paying at one point. It's like over $1 for Flare, which is now 1 cent. So I was just really annoyed when I saw that. So my advice would be, don't use it, don't even entertain it. And I did temper my tweet with saying I didn't want to be too negative, because BitTrue generally are supportive of the XRPL, so I don't want to dump on them too much. But in this instance, I just thought it was really it didn't seem to be within the spirit of Zahao at all. So don't do it, because at the end of the day, I've already got Zahao tokens now. I think I've got 20. And that's all I'm probably going to have, because it's all I shall need. I can do thousands of transactions for that. So what do I need any more for?
Love it. Thank you very much, Chris. Dazzling. Please feel free, man.
Yeah, I didn't see your tweet from yesterday. I just went and dug it up and I reposted it, but I'll have a read of it after this call. But yeah, I did just want to raise the question, because I know what it's like. You see something exciting and you go, oh, I want to get some of them, and you jump on over to these platforms and you scoop them all up, and then you look later on, you're like, why did I do that? That was just so stupid. So because obviously everyone does want to make a little bit of a profit at the end of the day. So yeah, I definitely couldn't have explained it as well as you did. But for everyone in the room and everyone listening, do listen to the developers. They know what they're talking about. But yeah, just be careful, everyone.
And back to Zaha, right? Some of these changes and these differences between the Ripple code base that exists on the XRP ledger and the code base that has been altered on Zahao is hooks. For the largest change, that's probably what we should have started with there. But what is a hook, right? A hook is the ability to have an account-based smart contract, light logical function that can interact in a multi-transactional way and create a string of transactions that can do some pretty interesting things from an account-based structure on Zahao, very similar to how we have this account-based structure that exists on the XRP ledger. And Chris, I would love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that you'd like to see being built with hooks, and maybe some of the things that you've already seen. I already know in my mind, I have one or two things, but I'd like to hear your thoughts first.
Well, I mean, you caught the end of Dennis's Twitch on Saturday, right? That I tweeted out. So Dennis is sort of like he was predominantly around the testing, but very, very heavily involved in the development of hooks. And he now is based in Netherlands at XRPL Labs, and he did a Twitch stream. And as part of that Twitch stream, I'd asked him. I said, let's do something with hooks. Let's see it. And so he actually created a hook on his Twitch stream, and yeah, it did. It kind of did exactly how you just described it. He took some a payment in and split it on in one, and so basically one transaction became many, and so he was able to basically take a payment for 100 XRP, and then basically split it and send 20 over there and 80 over there as part of one transaction. And the code that actually did it, you saw it, didn't you, Death? It wasn't particularly complex code. It was C, but it was sort of like it was quite beautiful, the simplicity of it, and it's a very simple implementation. And so when you think that you can take a hook and then you can apply multiple hooks to an account and control the order in which they might fire, it's gonna open up a significant number of potential use cases, I think. And I will be really disappointed in, say, 2 years' time if we've not seen a whole raft of new business models on the XRPL ecosystem evolve off the back of what they've launched today. Because we'd be so behind many of the other chains out there, and today I feel like we actually took a massive step forward. And I know many people are disappointed that it's not on the main net, and there's been 10,000 conversations about why, but the reality is we are where we are. It is still part of the XRPL ecosystem, and if you don't like it, well, tough. It's going to be the norm going forward. I think you're going to see new side chains coming out. I don't think Zahao will be the only one. I think you'll see more, and I think that that's how we're going to grow this ecosystem horizontally.
I could not agree more, Chris. And when I hear this kind of dispute, like, oh, Zahao is going to take away anything from the XRP ledger, I see it as the exact opposite, especially when we go into the factor of Evernode. We haven't touched on much on the space today. I've mentioned it twice. But this Linux virtual environment, which utilizes the consensus of Zahao to prove its ownership, prove its existence in a decentralized manner from the hosting platform side, really has the ability to interact and have functionality of applications that can be hosted that can both interact with Zahao and the XRP ledger. And so, the functionality suite of being able to have transactions that can interact with a transaction type on both, I mean, that really opens up the doors, just like you're saying, Chris, to the amount of things that could be built.
I am super bullish about Evernode, and I'm super bullish about hooks. I'm just super bullish about the entire thing, to be honest. But Evernode in itself is fantastic, and I've said on many spaces, a lot of people just don't realize the significance, and because Evernode is now being tied to Zahao, for technical reasons that it requires hooks. It can't go on the mainnet without hooks, so therefore it is tied to Zahao. It's been sort of painted with a broad brush by people that just don't understand, and they see it as one big sort of like thing. And what a lot of people don't sort of like seem to realize is that just because Zahao is used to facilitate Evernode doesn't mean that Evernode can't be used with the mainnet. You can have an Evernode contract out there that's running off Zahao. It's using its own native Ever's token, which is on Zahao, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't have some kind of DApp that's actually using XRP, or it could be, I mean, it could be that you're using a USD on the mainnet because you've got much better liquidity on the mainnet than what you've got on Zahao for that stable. So, you know, you've got such a massive opportunity for Evernode. The biggest thing is finding entrepreneurs with ideas and pairing them with developers that can actually deliver what they want.
Death Ranger, I just wanted to say on behalf of Team Fire, we actually have to jump, but this has been so amazing. What a wonderful surprise. And Chris, I could listen to you talk about this all day, and I often do because I go to a lot of your spaces, but I just wanted to say on behalf of the Fire team, thank you. And we're pushing to get Evernode done, so hopefully sooner than you think we'll have something to talk about there too. But
I love
thanks
it,
again.
and I look forward to seeing the audit, and I really appreciate Tammy, you and the team coming out today and speaking. I've been nervous all spaces. You know, it's not every day I get to have a group of individuals who I actually very much so like in the space. So, you know, I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. All right, take care, everyone.
Bye, and happy Halloween. And you know, she makes a good point too, because I actually went a couple minutes past my own time frame that I gave myself there at 5 o'clock. I'm gonna let it go for another 5 minutes or so we can go over a couple more different factors that exist on Zahao. But one example of a hook that came to my mind, which is clearly a huge change, is the way that governance can be done, right? From a voting structure and the way that amendments are voted in, and everybody agrees upon the standards of ability to have this governance structure on the network, trust-based governance structure. With a hook, you can have a multi-sig configuration of individuals who can pertain to make an agreement and have a vote of a yay or a nay, that then, after they do their vote, could be added into a larger pool of yays and nays that could then go into consideration of a vote of if that amendment should get voted in or not, making the validator structure way more decentralized, and just the ability for the capability for it to decentralize in such a vastly larger scale. I think, my own opinion, is one of the huge highlights of Zahao, and what hooks kind of grants the ability to have from a network structure that still is existing with a rippled code base. Your thoughts, Chris? Dazzling, Shellfish? You there, Chris?
Yeah, sorry, I had to step away to deal with my kids. Missed a lot of what you said. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Listen, I know. Actually, is it Halloween in the UK? Do you guys celebrate Halloween today?
Oh yeah, it's Halloween, and they're hopped up on sugar and they're going mental. So
there you go.
It's like 9 o'clock here now, so they should have been in bed an hour ago, but people are still turning up, so we're letting them stop up a bit later tonight.
Well, that's sweet of you guys, and I will also close up the space in the next 5, just so I could get everybody out, especially if you're going out with your kids tonight. You know, everybody be safe, have fun. Yeah, tonight is Halloween, so it's a night where we celebrated in America, and maybe other parts of the world, a little bit too hardcore with the sugars and the candies, but it is still a potentially you know, large historic day for some belief systems. Dazzling, go ahead, man.
I want to know, what are you dressing up as?
I am not dressing up as anything other than Death Ranger, but I'm Death Ranger every day, so you know it's nothing new.
I'm just gonna go with a software developer for me. That's what I'm doing. That's scary.
That's scary.
That's scary.
Yeah, I saw funny things like people carving pictures of like yeah, you know, your check engine light, and pictures of like a flat tire and things like that into the pumpkin. And I'm like, oh, that's actually scary. They had a great idea. true fears. No, nothing to fear but fear itself. Though two other aspects that I will signify to me as a really large change in some of the network functionalities, and this comes to issued assets. So on the XRP ledger, anybody is able to create an IOU, which is a representation of an issued asset, or essentially whatever the representation of the asset is that they want. In the XRP ledger, though, there's very limited functionality. We can create this trust line and we can distribute these tokens back and forth. There are some cool features I have, like a freeze feature and some other flags that can be set between these trust lines. But some of the things, like a functionality of an escrow, which really comes into handy when you're thinking about payments, and the functionality of being able to have a payment channel also be distributed between these issued assets. I think these are two functionalities that Zahao is going live with that create an entirely different dynamic behind the way that you can utilize IOU assets. And I particularly think about stable coins. It really highlights to me, a use case behind the functionality of if you had stable coins on the network and trades that were being done in these stable coins. Chris, I don't know off the top of my head, is the clawback functionality going live on Zahao, or is that something that's still just being talked about and maybe voted in?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I hadn't heard that it was, but I honestly don't know. However, even if it goes live on the mainnet, I would be very surprised if they didn't have it live on Zahao. But like I say, that'll be for the governance of Zahao to determine. However, I will say that what you said about escrow for IOU, I think it's a really important feature for business. I think we desperately want that on the mainnet. I don't really understand why we don't have it on the mainnet. The functionality is clearly valuable. So I think that, again, it goes to another value of Zahao. When it's live on Zahao, we'll see it being used. And I think that if it starts to get real use case, it just puts additional pressure for it to come to the mainnet sooner.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And on that note, right before the 5:10, I really appreciate everybody who came into the space today, and I really recommend anybody who had missed the space to go back and listen. FIO was in here. We got to speak about the audits they've done for Zahao, some of the really, really cool tool sets they're building, whether it be phishing protectors or the password manager set that they're building, and the fishies NFTs they have. If you don't have one, or you want to participate in their ecosystem, they're using the funding from that to help build these tool sets that they're going to open source and allow people to be able to utilize. This was just a really epic conversation today, and so I appreciate everybody who came, and I hope everybody finds this information just as valuable as I did today. I am pretty sure I will be here Thursday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. We didn't get to talk really much about Evernode, so I'm probably going to keep the space on Zahao and then lead it over to Evernode, so we can talk about some really great functionalities on that. And hope to see everyone there. But once again, be safe tonight, and happy Halloween, everyone.